XAnalysts. Empowering analysts, transforming markets.
Back to another episode of Exploring the Energy Markets with yet another expert in the industry with a very diverse profile across the globe. My guest today is Arnel Santos. He's the Chief Operating Officer at Meralco, a power-based company in the Philippines. Arnel had a long history, started with Shell Refinery in Tabangao, with a stint in Kuala Lumpur learning and leading the global distillation teams. He then went into Amsterdam at the Shell headquarters for Center of Excellence Analysis and leading the teams. Another journey took him to Canada, Shell Scotford, and oil sands upgrading asset, Nova Chemicals, petrochemicals, came back to the Philippines a few times to lead the refinery there. Then another petrochemical facility, JG Summit, and now to the power markets. So with that kind of varied career, diverse experiences, I'm really excited to bring the insights from his experience. Talked a lot about Canada, a lot about Venezuela. I want to shift gears in this part to talk about your current role. Tell me about it. Now you're moved from oil, chemicals to power. What are you doing? What's the role? And how do you see the power market, which is becoming a very volatile market these days? So tell me a little bit about your role, current role, and what are you seeing in the power markets?
Thank you for that question, Mukesh. Just a brief background. So I am the current Chief Operating Officer of Meralco Generation Thermal Business. That means all the generators that are coal and oil based, diesel generators and coal. It fundamentally provides base load to the country, or at least this sector. The Philippines is fundamentally power short, especially in the Visayas region where my assets are largely located. So there is demand for more power generation, power generation capacity. But in the Philippine context, like many countries with the commitment to sustainability, climate change, there has been a lot of moves over many years. I learned where renewable energy has been encouraged and people have invested quite a fair bit on renewable energy, specifically solar. Which brings its own challenges because of the variable nature of solar energy, and hence I've also learned in a very short period of time I joined. I've been in this business now 4 months, and it's fascinating to see how within the day how prices evolve because of first of all the demand profile during the day changes, especially changes. Also it changes during summer, where it really becomes hot in the Philippines and humid. But at the same time, the profile of the variable energy sources like solar, when they are no longer producing power towards the afternoon, then you go back to the oil-based, gas-based, oil-based, coal-based producers of power. So that's been something I am really diving into. Understanding that market, understanding the power dynamics is in the Philippines. But at the same time, fundamentally, what I can also say in 4 months in, the fundamentals of power generation remain the same: reliability, safety, competitiveness, cost competitiveness, agility to respond to the variation in demand of power, and your ability to capture market opportunities, because it's being traded every 5 minutes. So it's really fascinating. I found it really fascinating compared to oil in the Philippines, like a growing market like the Philippines.
No, I think you raise. I'm in Australia, and I think one part, and tell me your thoughts, Arnel, one part which gets less understood is that this is part of the transition, that the coal plants have an expiry date. Now you have to be ready to do a lot of solar renewables before that. But obviously a time will come when the coal plant has not retired yet, but the solar and the other renewables have grown a lot. Now you cannot just shut down a coal plant and then restart now and then. The clouds can come and the solar can go up and down fast, but the coal plants cannot be turned down and up and down. So this causes this volatility. Once the solar and renewables have really taken the shape, and the coal plants have retired, then the price stability will come. So I think the price stability is part of the equation. And what Australia is doing is a huge investments and incentives for batteries for so that the draw on the grids in the night times are different. Are you seeing some certain dynamics within the
Yeah.
Philippines market where this kind of power volatility, and what's the sort of the percentage, if you know,
I
of
would
the? Mhm.
I would say similar. I would also add to what you said in terms of price stability. The fundamental criticality or the critical aspect is grid stability.
Grid stability. Okay, tell me more.
So so because of the variability of renewable supply,
Hmm.
you need to make sure that the system protects grid stability, that you don't get into situations where you're disturbing the grid, creating local outages or local
Mm.
disturbances because or macro disturbances because of voltage dip, for example, because of sudden reduction in supply and your demand remains the same. The grid needs to be positioned and made reliable, and hence the transition is really a process because you cannot go from 0 to 100 miles per hour in meaning
Yeah.
zero have coal to zero coal in no time because you need base load stability. You need to prepare the grid for variability in supply and also supplying the variability in demand. So of course, with that dynamics, there is price volatility within the day. You see it during the day. It's actually fascinating. If as a consumer,
Mm-hmm.
you're encouraged to look at the prices and do your non-critical household activities when the power is cheaper.
Now, I think you raise a fascinating point. I mean, there was a time when the prices of power were stable, right? One source. Now, this will probably generate, and with the help of I think the homes will become smart users of electricity, and I think that will provide some stability as well. So it's a combination of many things that will shape the market. And I think it's so fascinating. Let me ask you a question. You came from oil, refining, petrochemicals. How did that help you see differently from the people who have always been in the power markets or this kind of a business?
The transition between business types have been really advantageous for me
Hmm.
personally because I like learning. I like being challenged. So that's one part that I really enjoy. Just now, we just devoted 5-10 minutes on the power industry, and I'm still learning a lot in that industry. With now, I'm 4 months in. There are also many similarities that I
Hmm.
find helpful to leverage as I move from one business type to another because fundamentally these are all asset heavy, asset intensive, capital intensive businesses operated by people. So really the commonality between refining, upgrading, base chemicals, petrochemicals, polyethylene production to power,
It's the
they are
same.
all capital intensive, asset intensive, 10, 20, 20-year life assets that you need to operate, that you need to make sure are positioned for the inevitable movement in macro fundamentals within that 20-year horizon, operated by people. So that's what
But
I
I'm sure,
bring.
Anil, there is something unique which you can bring compared to others who have always been in the power industry? Is there something that comes a
I would not,
story?
yeah. So I know I don't want to come across with false humility, but really you're right. There are learnings that I bring from one entity to the other. For example,
Mm-hmm.
for example, saying that they are fundamentally similar in many ways, but they are also differently operated philosophy-wise. So, but the philosophy of asset management, process safety management is what I bring to the table because they don't really go away. So in the power sector, although you can argue it's less complex compared to a complex refinery with cat cracker, decokers, hydrocrackers, but the fundamentals of process safety and reliability are similar. So what I bring to this job now are what I learned over the years that are applicable, directly applicable, and also really needed, not just nice to have, but needed,
But critical, yes.
critical to make sure we remain reliable, agile to the market that are really demanding. So
And
that's
I
what I
guess,
bring.
yeah, and I guess that the key thing about the oil or the fossil side is you can store it, right?
Right,
Electricity you cannot
right,
store. So if there is an
right.
upset, you don't have a tank to give electricity, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I guess the asset management requirement is far greater probably in the power sector compared to the oil. And I'm sure but from a dangers and hazard perspectives, I guess the oil has more, so you can
Yeah.
bring those things. So I'm sure a lot of boards should be looking for it, people like you to put them at the top of those companies because I think that's where the value is.
Thank
Okay,
you.
let me ask now. So Arnel, in this entire journey, which I cannot compress into a 1 hour or 30 minutes podcast, I want to bring out any personal stories related to analysts. You have worked with the analyst. Analysts have provided you inputs to make decisions. What annoyed you? What made you feel good about analysis? So the aspiring young analysts, is there a message, is there a guidance you want to give that, because it's all analysts are to enable high quality decision making, right? And so maybe share some stories, some experiences. What do you say to the young aspirants?
Analytics are becoming really essential. I would say it's a competitive advantage. Uh, so that's the premium I put to analytics.
Mm-hmm.
And hence it's no surprise that many organizations, many businesses have really invested in proactive, predictive analytics. For a young analyst or an up and coming aspiring analyst, the essential points in my experience are: one is the ability to connect the dots
Mm-hmm.
between what could appear to be non independent events or independent dynamics, and being able to see the connections. And equally important in making those connections is helping people like me understand and see the connections, because that really is a complement to the experience I bring to the table. But I have blind spots, and I
Mm-hmm.
require. There's so much moving parts today that it really helps to narrow, but at the same time integrate and narrow to the so what of the dynamic. So I find that that's key
Any
to
stories
be.
come in your mind from your experience, Arnel, where, wow, that was a great analysis, especially related to the markets, and whether it was in petrochemicals or in refining, that made you, go for a very confident decision-making process. Any stories come in mind? Of course, I'll
Yeah,
ask you
no.
any horror stories as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say not really horror stories, but I guess the pitfall of analytics. Let me start with that before I get to the exciting stories.
Mhm.
Uh, there's always context to data and information.
Context to data. Mhm.
And it's important that when you're looking at benchmarking, and you're looking at industry benchmarks, industry practices, the data analytics that comes out of that, Whether you're looking at competitiveness in supply chain or competitiveness in your manufacturing base or your commercial operation, like in my case, polyethylene, and understanding my competitive position in my polyethylene in the market I currently operate in. There's always context to the benchmarks. What I find is easy to fall into the trap of the benchmark directly applies to a situation,
Okay.
and then you take that assumption and then create action plans to close that gap without fully comprehending yet why are you at where you're at, and are these benchmarks truly applicable, or this or is the gap real?
Mm-hmm.
Because of my context and the context of the benchmarks where it came from. So I've seen this in reliability, I've seen this in maintenance, I've seen this in commercial. The commercial profile of polyethylene in the Philippines is not the same when dealing with Nova Chemicals in North America.
Mm-hmm.
The customer behaviors are different. The demand profile of polyethylene and polypropylene in the Philippines is not the same as North America. The buying behaviors of customers are different. Terms and conditions are different, as an example. So it's not straightforward. It's not impossible, but that's the job of the analyst to help. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what I find as horror, being led into one thing without truly understanding why it is, and then ending up
Mm-hmm.
either you're not seeing the value, or the value is there but not sustainable because it's not really fundamentally linked to what's causing the performance gap. So
No, I
you
think you
might
make a good point that you may see a flash of a value for some unrelated, but it may not be sustainable, and that requires good context. And I would say market is one of the best contexts, right? So,
right,
in my experience, in your experience, a lot of the analysis gets driven by an engineer's mindset.
right,
But
right.
I transitioned in my days, and I used to come to Tabangao refinery a lot. And from an engineer, when I landed on the Houston trade floor into a market person, how do you see that lots and lots of engineers' mindset should also embrace and learn more about the market? Did you feel that need in your experience? And what would you say to people who don't look at the market, but who stay, of course, technical is important, but any message?
I would connect this a very critical point you're now raising with my introduction of why my exposure to refining, supply, and economics have
Mm,
been fundamental in my growth as a professional. Very early on, it opened my eyes to a number of dynamics, properties of crude oil and why it matters, why it influences value, what's the connection to operations, what's the connection to reliability, how do you truly make money? How do
mm,
you truly make value? I fundamentally appreciated that opportunity. I did realize how defining that was over the years, and from then on, I would not say I'm an expert. I never really ventured and never considered myself going into full commercial or trading in the shell sense. But in being fundamentally fascinated by operations, technical, and engineering, I found it really enhancing to
mm,
understand the value part of it, to guide my decisions on reliability, to help me understand the choices better that I needed to make. Given there will always be choices to make, whether you will pursue an investment opportunity, or why would you invest on asset integrity. You will have a long laundry list of things you want to do
do, yeah.
to preserve integrity. But how does it connect to value, safety, process safety, and value? How are you balancing all of that? Without the benefit of my own interests and my own investment of time learning it, it would be a more difficult journey for me over the years. And to be honest, I would be less effective in my senior roles if as I became more senior, I would not be as effective if I'm not able to connect the dots.
I think you raise a very important point, and this has been resonates with my experience that um, the market side is so critical. It helps you do a better job when you are growing years, but it becomes super critical when you are in very leading positions because you are competing with the market every day, and you need to really understand. And it becomes difficult when you reach to the top to now go back to learn the basics of the market. So you have to pick along the journey and carry the baggage because it will be very useful when you reach to the top. So, no, I think fascinating point. So, Arnel, we started with talking about Canada, Venezuela, fascinating inputs. I think we learned and dig a little bit about the power markets in the Philippines. I didn't ask you anything about your petrochemicals, which is a big part, but I want to ask you now, 2026, going forward, energy transition, Philippines is a growing country. What's your view of the power market? Let's start with it, and then petrochemicals and oil refining. So start with views on the power markets. How do you see 2026 and ahead?
Thanks for that question, Mukesh. Let me start with that. I see an exciting future ahead with respect to the power market in the Philippines. Growth continues. The country is growing. The population is growing. There's every effort to improve and grow the manufacturing base of the country. There are exciting opportunities with respect to analytics, data centers, data science, and things like that that I find uh, that will offer opportunities to grow in the power sector. It will be a challenging period as well to respond to that opportunity in terms of your ability to grow your generation in a competitive way, because it's not just all about growth, because any asset you bring in now will be 25 years on the ground, so you need to be really thoughtful about the life cycle. You have to consider the full suite of generating levers, renewables, the traditional oil-based producers, the emergence of nuclear power, re-emergence, I would say, of nuclear power. So that's what, as a
You'll be
power,
watching.
and I will be watching how will all those evolve. But certainly in 2026, in the next 5 years, I see a lot of growth opportunities in the power sector here in the Philippines, for sure. There will be some challenges too, because as we grow,
Anything you're worried
uh,
about, Arnel, when
I'm
you look?
I'm worried about on the power side. I'm worried about the sustainability of gas,
Mhm.
because we have a modest indigenous gas in Malampaya. People the country has invested to grow that too, but LNG fundamentally is not, we're not gifted with a lot of LNG. We import. And as
Mhm.
for as long as you're importing a critical part of your value chain, you're always exposed. And
So
that's
I
what I learned in
guess,
petrochemicals.
yeah, I guess what I spoke to a lot of LNG and gas experts when I will learn is that in the next 2 3 years, a big wave of LNG supply is coming, and the prices will be quite going down. So it could be a good opportunity in some ways. Yes,
For as long as the country as a whole is prepared and
to
has
take it.
to take it from a
Okay.
logistics standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint, from a regulatory standpoint. So
So
you're
I think
right.
somebody should be working hard to be
Yeah.
ready
So that
to
will
take
be that will
advantage the
be
market may give. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Petrochemicals, I'm
Hmm.
worried about it fundamentally, because it will continue to grow, but what has now been proven, at least in my mind, in the last decade, is the power of integration and size in petrochemicals. Non-integrated petrochemical producers will be always a challenge, and I don't think it will even survive, like what happened to JG Stock
No,
in our
I
case.
wanted to ask you because I once visited the Bangaw refinery, and I remember I might have actually gone with you. We went to the JG Summit to look at. There
Mm.
were discussions about hydrogen integration and
Mm.
all. So tell me, petrochemical, everybody says is the future in energy transition. Yeah, without sharing anything confidential. But what happened, or anything
No,
which is?
it's a really if I will boil it down to a few
Mhm.
things, what the market as a whole is experiencing is supply overhang. There's a lot of
The
supply.
margins are bad. Yes.
Yeah, the margins are bad. The polyethylene and the polypropylene chain are severely oversupplied. And in that scenario, you really have to have advantage feedstocks. No different from crude oil. You
Mm-hmm.
really have to have advantage position. So what's advantage in petrochemicals? Gas cracking, or you're integrated with a refinery upstream to provide you with the feedstock you need for cracking as a minimum. So those two will always be positioned well in the cost curve.
Mm.
But when you're non-integrated, you're importing feedstocks, you'll always be at the wrong end of the cost curve.
Costco.
So
Yes. Yeah.
if the supply fundamental is oversupplied, then you're severely punished
Mm.
because you're fundamentally not already advantage costs in the cost curve, and there's not a lot of margins to
So
really enjoy.
I think what you bring, Arnel, is that from real experience, all those petrochemical plants who their revenue side is exposed to the global margins and all those things, but if they are not advantage on the feedstock side, that's where suddenly the external revenue side goes down and they get into trouble. So really, you have to strengthen the advantage feedstock side.
Yes. Right.
Is there an advantage feedstock for any petrochemicals in Philippines with the refinery closures?
Uh, I would not say directly here in the Philippines, but a partner or an operator with access to hydrocarbons, a resource owner would be better positioned.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you're part of an entity that is a big player in the trading side that can provide a trading advantage as you're sourcing the feedstock could be an opportunity. Again, I don't pretend to know details, but that's what I typically see now outside in for people that are finding alternative owners. More often than not, it's a two-way, three-way partnership with the resource holder and or a trader.
Now, I think
Right.
you raised a point that I
Yeah.
feel that trading is a segment of the business which is so capable in solving very complex problems. Right? That's how I would
Right.
define it, right?
Right.
And if you marry an asset and the trading side is strong, then that can give advantage to the asset. And if there are times of spare capacity, traders can utilize that capacity to create price advantages on the feedstock
Mm.
side. So I
Mm.
think you're right. Marrying the asset with some trading strength is a key to go. Philippines as a country, I enjoyed mangoes. I enjoyed my time in puko salad. So I'm sure you have come to Philippines after lived many years, outside. Especially thinking about the hydrocarbon and this energy sector. What are your top one, two, three wishes which the country should do? And because everybody is talking about energy security, what are one, two, three things which you would say that Philippines as a country leadership to do to get stronger energy security?
Two things come to mind in the short period I've been back. One is regulatory certainty.
Mm-hmm.
There's regulations are key to investments, are key to attracting growth. And second is infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
Supply chain is very challenged in the Philippines. Not just because we are an archipelago of many islands,
How many
but
islands? I guess
7,000 plus, right?
7,000 islands. Wow.
7,100 islands. So I would boil it down to those two: regulatory certainty and infrastructure, improving the infrastructure to enable a more robust supply chain
It's
for
infrastructure.
us. So
Okay.
those two. Without those, we will be really exposed. If we will import a lot of things, then it compounds your challenges, compounds your exchange rate exposure, all of those will. So the cost of doing business will become exponentially higher because of all of those disadvantages.
No, fascinating. Well, Philippines is a country close to me because I started my Shell career by landing on the Tabangab refinery for the first time. Went to see the Tal in the
Yeah.
volcano as well. So I think a lot of memories going over there. Before I close this, Arnel, I know you've been a very people leader. I've been a fan. I've been follower of your very inspiring messages you put out and share across the social media with a lot of people, right? We live in the AI age. A lot of people work from home and other kind of things happening. Any soft side, people you would like to give message because there is competition and you need collaboration. Any practical messages you want to give for people to really outperform and become a solid engineer or analyst? What comes to your mind?
What I learned has one thing constant is leadership. Effective leadership has always been critical. But what I find even more important nowadays, with all the fast nature of events, the macro fundamentals, there's so many things going on. There's a lot of distractions that's going on, a lot more, and you're more exposed. There's a lot more data that comes to you. There's a lot more social pressures. So individuals are we have all our own challenges. So leadership becomes even more important nowadays. And the same things that we were taught and we learned, on what effective leadership, I would say, they remain valid and essential. The criticality now is consistency, and really making sure that you're consistently following through on the leadership expectations to engage people, to unleash people, to make the best possible situation for people to thrive in a very challenging situation. And you have to do all of that now in a virtual way, or in a whether it's because of hybrid nature of working, or you're now dealing with multiple localities under your jurisdiction where you need to connect people in a bigger way. So that's key. That has not really changed, but it's become more and more important. And I would even argue it's probably a competitive advantage that is probably least appreciated, in terms of, because they don't create immediate value.
Yeah,
It,
it shows up quite, it takes
uh,
years
but
to,
but
yeah,
but it can destroy value quickly.
quickly. A very good point. Yes, yes, yes. Right.
But it creates, the creation of new value takes time.
Take time. I think you raise a very important point which resonate. Consistency, I think, is a key word, because
Mm,
you can be a good leader one day,
mm,
and the 3 days you are not, doesn't
mm,
work, right? So it's much better to choose and select and be good, but be consistently good as a leader, versus sometimes you're a very good leader and then sometimes you're not a good
mm,
leader. That's where I
mm.
found that even own personal challenges. Well, Arnel, what a fascinating conversation. We talked about Canada, Venezuela. It's not the same. People should go into the details. There is a lot of surface level which might hog the attention and we might get it wrong. You really shared a lot of insights on the power side and obviously on the petrochemical side. And yes, the people side, the consistency of leadership. Well, we can talk a lot longer on so much more of your experience. I'm sure we'll come back again to it. But for now, thank you so much and wish you an onward journey and a creative journey by being an oil person, being a petrochemical person, now being a power person, sort of going forward and lifting the game in the Philippines.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mukesh.
XAnalysts. Empowering analysts, transforming markets.